In this video, I wanted to talk about Sony versus Disney. Now, I've talked in streams recently, specifically about Sony's Spider Man universe, about Spider Man, why it's such a strange and cynical shared universe. And frankly, it's just incredible to me that the CEO of Sony actually went out there and just said, "Oh, it's critics' fault that this universe is bad." Madam Web was just unfairly trashed by critics. How are you that out of touch? How is it that you can't see? Oh, wait a minute. We chose to do a shared universe based on a very bad and cynical foundation. Comical. It really is. Madam Web, such a good movie, unfairly trashed by the critics. What are you talking about? Now, today I wanted to, more broadly speaking, talk about Sony as a whole and Disney as a whole. Because obviously, there's more to Sony than just their Spider-Man less shared universe. You also, of course, have Sony Pictures Animation, which is responsible for the Spider-Verse films, Mitchell's versus the Machines, Vivo, which is a Netflix movie that came out in like 2020, 2021. I don't remember exactly what year it came out. There are other movies that Sony Pictures Animation has done. And then, of course, you have the MCU Spider-Man films that Sony has been doing in collaboration with Marvel Studios. It's not Sony exclusively. These two studios have been working together to do the Tom Holland Spider-Man films. Sony overall does not have a good reputation right now for very obvious reasons because of how spectacularly they screwed up their shared universe. Now, when you think about Disney as a whole, of course, there's been good movies and shows from Disney. I mean, 2024, you had Deadpool versus Wolverine. It got positive reviews, made a ton of money at the box office. Inside Out 2 from Pixar obviously was a big hit, one of the only movies to ever make $1 billion, got very positive reviews. 2023, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was a big hit. Spider-Man No Way Home got positive reviews and made a ton of money at the box office. You also have movies like Prey or Avatar The Way of Water, which are put up by 20th Century Studios, but 20th Century is owned by Disney. So both those movies still fall under the Disney umbrella, and both of them have gotten positive reviews. Avatar The Way of Water just made a ton of money at the box office. But while there have been some movies that have done well, and of course there's been good TV shows. You have like Andor, great Star Wars show. There's been some good Marvel shows. No one's going to dispute that. Loki was definitely a success, for example. But I don't think anyone's really going to dispute that the MCU, for example, is just not as good as it used to be. It's not performing commercially the way it used to. The box office performance isn't as strong as it used to. Just look at viewership numbers for the Disney Plus shows. Viewership has gone down. People are not very interested in either Marvel or Star Wars Disney Plus shows. Star Wars live action shows have been very inconsistent. Hardly anyone would dispute that Kathleen Kennedy has just done a bad job as the CEO of Lucasfilm. It's just astonishing to me that she is still the CEO, even though she's not put out a movie since Rise of Skywalker in 2019. We're not getting a new movie until 2026. That's just crazy. And you think about 2023, ooh, you had Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania. That movie did not build up the excitement. It didn't make a splash the way it should have. It just should have been a lot better, obviously. It ended up feeling just very bland and generic. It felt toothless, devoid of any kind of bite or teeth. So it was just like, whatever, who cares? And then the Marvels, ooh, that movie bombed at the box office. And if you just look at the numbers, it's like, okay, the reviews are not technically bad. They're just barely positive. But if you listen to the discussions about that movie, sure, it's fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, but a lot of people would say the story should have been better. There's no excuses for a company with all the resources that Disney has putting out an inferior movie like the Marvels in theaters with all the money they have at their disposal. There's no excuse for putting out a movie that feels duct taped together with reshoots, that feels like the script was really underdeveloped. That should not happen when you're Disney and you put out good movies in this franchise previously. We think about Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny. It underperformed at the box office. And sure, if you look just at the numbers, it's like, okay, the movie's fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm sure the Metacritic score is good. The reviews technically are positive, but if you actually listen to the conversations people have been having about that movie, a lot of people were disappointed by it. Not that a lot of people would say, like, it's terrible, what a disaster. No, I think a lot of people are not going to say that, but they are going to say, it wasn't as good as it should have been, or they'd say, fundamentally, it's just a bad idea to do a movie about old, depressed, miserable Indiana Jones. That's not what I go to these movies for. That's not what I want from this franchise. I don't want every one of my childhood heroes to be deconstructed. So we're talking about Sony versus Disney. Disney has obviously done more big, high-profile stuff than Sony has. That is for sure. Disney has not had a great run over the past few years, but they've still put out good movies and TV shows. They've frankly done more big, high-profile movies or shows that have actually been good, more than Sony has. Just look at the output of the two studios. Disney has put out more movies and shows that are good, while also having quite a decent amount of movies and shows that have been letdowns. Sony hasn't really put out as much, so I think their reputation is worse than Disney's reputation overall. I'll wrap things up for this one.